Hi, Jason Knott, Chief Content Officer at Commercial Integrator, and today I am talking with Matt Lukens, NDI Evangelist. Hi, Matt.
Hi, how are you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining me today. Let's jump right into it. So, what exactly is the NDI, or also known as the Network Device Interface?
Well, it's a video over IP standard that's used in a lot of different industries. It's prevalent in broadcast, is prevalent in the AV field, but first and foremost, it's software. It's not chips. You don't need to add a card or a chip to your system or to your laptop to add NDI. You just load the software and you've got NDI.
Fantastic. And obviously, related to what we're talking about today is related to AV over IP network. So, what differentiates NDI from other video over IP standards?
Number one, it's very simple. It's easy to use. It can be run on basically any network, from a 1 gig network to a 100 gig network, and it serves a wide variety of applications. And again, you don't have to add a card to your laptop. You don't have to buy special equipment. It's software. And so for an end user or for a software provider, they can add it very quickly and very easily. And for a device manufacturer, even there, it's a question of just adding software, not redesigning their equipment.
Sounds super flexible. So, who is out there using NDI?
Well, there's lots of different people out there using NDI. We literally have thousands of software companies who use NDI to add video to their products. And those software companies have, hundreds or thousands of end users. And so we literally have millions of people out there who are using NDI every single day in their job and in their workflow. And then, of course, we have device manufacturers, many of which have provided cameras and displays and converters and other kinds of equipment.
Can you give us a sampling of some of those major manufacturers who are out there using NDI?
Sure. Many household names. You're talking about Sony and Panasonic and JVC, Marshall, Canon, Logitech, Netgear, PTZ Optics, BirdDog. They all have NDI products or product lines. They're all using NDI with their customers. And we add more every single month. It's an ongoing process. And we've grown our hardware developer base by leaps and bounds over the last year.
So, why should a corporate end user, or in the education field, or a lot of the tech decisions readers that we have, as well as commercial integrator readers on the integration side, why should they care about NDI?
First and foremost, it's simplicity and ease of use. And secondly, it's the breadth of applications that are available. You simply take your Ethernet cable, whether it's 1 gig or 10 gig or 100 gig, you plug it into your PC and you've got NDI. And in terms of setup, it's exceedingly simple. Once you plug that cable in, you get a drop-down menu, and with your camera or your display or your PC, you select a source or a destination and you're up and running, rather than having to set submasts or IP addresses or any complex kind of installation that you have to deal with. NDI makes it simple.
Give some examples of some of the applications and some of the niches like education space or wherever this might be used.
Well, it's used in a whole bunch of different places. I mean, it's used by House of Worships in a three camera shoot, where you've got a large format screen at the front, in front of the pulpit. You probably have a camera on the pulpit itself. You've also got a camera sitting there on the choir. You might have a camera on the congregation, and they've got a little switcher in the back. And there are hundreds of those out there, if not thousands, that are using NDI. In the educational space, it's being used for lecture capture. It's being used for hybrid classrooms. Those same colleges and high schools are using it, in live sports production. With a piece of switcher software. And some of the larger colleges are using it to run their arenas, and their ring boards and their scoreboards and that sort of thing. We have tier one broadcasters who are literally using it to run entire studios and their edit phase as well. And that's the beauty and scalability of NDI. You can use it in many different places. Microsoft has added it to Teams and Skype, so it's now in the corporate remote work environment. Zoom has it available in Zoom rooms. I mean, as our remote work and our conferencing has evolved, people want to add produced content to a conference. And maybe it's an all hands meeting. Maybe it's a board meeting. Maybe it's a shareholders meeting. Perhaps it's an analyst meeting. And they don't want to be sitting there just having a Zoom meeting. They want to bring in the kind of produced content that gives their audience what they need. So, it's turning up in many different places. In fact, recently with the rapid adoption and growth that we've seen through remote work, it's being even picked up in the medical field. And so NDI is truly becoming ubiquitous across many different industries with many different applications.
Okay, let's dig a little bit deeper, Matt. Tell me about the NDI ecosystem.
That's a great question. Many people understand that there is an ecosystem, but they don't understand how it works. And they particularly don't understand how it works because, for many people in many applications, NDI is free. And they wonder, well, how do you do that? Well, NDI is really has a three-sided implementation. And that is, when we first started out with NDI, we brought out the NDI software SDK or the NDI SDK. We improved that every year. We put a tremendous amount of development resources into it. And fundamentally, it's used by a software company who has an application, and perhaps it's a software switcher, or perhaps it's a graphics program, or perhaps it's some other video related application for an arena. And what they want to do is they want to shift away from whatever networking technology they were using to the simplicity of NDI. And so we make that available. And so the NDI SDK is free. It's free to redistribute, and it's free for the end users to use. And we have thousands of software companies who use that in their applications to give their end users video every day in their workplace. And that's really sort of the cornerstone of NDI. And that's the NDI everybody understands and knows and loves. In developing NDI, we understood that as many software companies started to add NDI to their products, their end users would need certain tools. And so we brought out a second set of applications, which is NDI Tools. NDI Tools is also free. And so we have millions of end users who have downloaded NDI Tools. And so what do NDI Tools do? Well, some of them are very common tools. So some of those common tools are one application called Studio Monitor, which does just what it sounds like on your PC. Another is Virtual Input, which lets you take any NDI input that's on the network that your PC is connected to and connect it to a software application that is that you're currently running without having to modify the software application. In fact, it brings NDI in looking like a USB camera, and that's in fact the way that Microsoft adds it to their product. And there are other tools. We recently brought out a very important tool called NDI Bridge. And what NDI Bridge does is, up until NDI 5, which was our most recent release in July, NDI was basically restricted in simple applications to a local network. You could, of course, configure a larger network, much more complex, to bring NDI sources over the internet. But essentially, if you're a small user and a casual user, there's no real way to easily get NDI across the internet and backhaul a camera or control a camera or something like that. So we brought out NDI Bridge, and NDI Bridge allows you to have 2 or more networks that share NDI, so that you can be in Paris and you can pull a camera in from Sheboygan if you want to. If you want to control a camera that's sitting on top of a building in New York, you can do that from Oshkosh. And so Bridge is a really seminal piece of software for us, and it is also free for for small network configurations. So that's NDI tools, and you can download it at ndi.tv, and you can set up your own NDI network, and it doesn't cost you anything. So we are committed to keeping both the NDI SDK and the NDI tools free and free to download. And we have been since the beginning. Then there is the third product that we have, which is the NDI Advanced SDK. The NDI Advanced SDK is just what it sounds like. It has a set of very advanced features that an integrator such as Panasonic, So the NDI SDK, the NDI Advanced SDK is just what it sounds like. It has an advanced set of features that are useful to people who are building networking equipment and displays and cameras, and have the need of being able to granularly set and manage the network connections, have separate metadata on each individual connection, receive and transmit compressed data without decompressing it, and also IP genlock, so that you can genlock using NDI cameras and computers so that you can align the video streams when they're received. So those features and that feature set is something that we charge for. The Advanced SDK is a licensed product, and it's available to be developed with at no charge. You can download the Advanced NDI SDK from our website, and you can download it for Windows or the Mac or iOS or Android or Linux. And in downloading it, it will run for 30 minutes. And so you can develop against it, and you can prove your design all at no cost. In order to remove the 30-minute limitation, you have to enter into a license with NDI. And those licenses carry different terms depending on what kind of device it is or what kind of network product it is. And so those are the three legs of NDI. And that is effectively the NDI ecosystem.
So if you're an integrator, a manufacturer, end user, where should you start? And you've got an application coming up. You don't know whether or not it's going to be, you're going to need just the SDK, NDI SDK or the Advanced SDK. Is there some sort of consultative element to NDI that helps them kind of determine the right application?
Sure, I can cover that pretty quickly. The documentation is fairly complete, and will give you the information that you need. If you're a newbie and you're a complete novice to NDI, the first thing that you should do is go download NDI tools. Go to ndi.tv/tools, download the tools, and set it up. Now, with a single computer or a couple of computers, you can set up an NDI network. You can really get an understanding and a feel for how NDI operates and what you can do with it. Once you get that under your belt, you may not need to use the NDI SDK or the NDI Advanced SDK if all you're doing is setting up a network. However, if you're doing integration, where you're adding NDI to a piece of software that you probably produce, fundamentally, it's very different. But the NDI SDK is designed so that you can add it to your application with a minimum of changes. Fundamentally, when you use the NDI software SDK, your application, for all intents and purposes, doesn't really know that NDI is there while it's operating. The video that the application sends is the same video that it's sending now. The video that it receives in memory is the same video that it receives now. But NDI is sitting in between it, and we are doing all of the encoding and all of the decoding and all the magic underneath the covers. So although by adding NDI, you enable your users to have this very powerful networking capability. At the same time, you don't have a great deal of control over it. It goes in, you add it, and you have NDI, and it's very easy to use. On the other hand, if you're an equipment manufacturer and you want to use the advanced SDK, the advanced SDK gives you some very different capabilities. Notice I said that with the NDI SDK, that the NDI SDK is doing the encoding and decoding. What we're really doing is we're managing the encoding and decoding resources of the operating system that we're running on. And so when you get to the advanced SDK, we are not doing that. In the advanced SDK, we are receiving compressed data, video, or sending compressed data from your application. So your application has to have all of the encoding and decoding resources in its current form before you start using the advanced SDK. Now that's very important for a couple of different reasons. Number one, if you're a camera manufacturer, a converter manufacturer, a display manufacturer, you already have the encoding resources in your device. And you don't really want us to go off and be doing encoding and decoding because you have a specific set of latency you've already programmed into your software or that your software has. And so one of the things that the NDI Advanced SDK is, it's very low latency and it's very light computationally. So we put it into cameras all the time that are already existing with relatively low-powered ARM processors. And so the NDI SDK is capable of doing that. In terms of codecs, NDI as a protocol and as a standard supports two different sets of codecs natively. One of them is called what's SpeedHQ. And SpeedHQ is a high bandwidth, low latency codec that a 1080p stream runs at about 160 megabits. It's used in many production systems like NewTek and like VizRT, which are two of our sister companies as part of the VizRT group. We also support H.265 and H.264 as NDI HX. So in the advanced SDK, you can receive NDI HX and you can receive NDI high bandwidth, which is the SpeedHQ codec, and you can also send the NDI HX or the NDI SpeedHQ. In the NDI SDK, you can only receive NDI HX and NDI SpeedHQ, and you can only send the SpeedHQ or NDI high bandwidth out. So going back to the NDI Advanced SDK, we also include as part of the software and intellectual property that you get as part of that SDK, SpeedHQ encoders both in software form and also FPGA designs for those of you who are going to be designing a converter or a camera to support that needs very low latency. So you can see that the NDI Advanced SDK is very technically rich in what it does. And it really is an SDK that is designed for people who are writing software or people who are designing products and that need to embed NDI into those products. Whereas the NDI SDK by itself really is designed for being added to products that are already out there and can be used.
Glad you went into depth there on those differences between the advanced SDK and the regular SDK. The whole standard sounds quite robust and quite dynamic, but yet simple to use. So I really appreciate you spending the time, Matt, talking to Commercial Integrator today.
Not a problem. I've had device manufacturers add the advanced SDK to a camera literally in a day or two. Typical timing is a bit more than that, of course, but it's although highly complex and giving you a great deal of control, it's very easy to add. The software SDK also, it's a very rich standard. It is complex, and the complexity is available to the developer in both SDKs, but the complexity is not apparent to the end user, which is really what we're all striving for.
Right. Easier to use for that end user is what they want.
That's right.
So, Matt, I know you said that NDI Bridge was a really key component to NDI tools. Are there any new things coming down the pike for the advanced SDK that integrators should be aware of?
Sure. Well, we have lots of very rich things coming down the pike for the NDI Advanced SDK, but we're all going to have to wait for the releases. The one thing that we did release as part of NDI 5 in July and the Advanced SDK is IP Genlock. If you're technically involved in broadcast or AV, you know that Genlock is a key component of making sure that your video is synchronized. And as part of the Advanced SDK, we have introduced the ability to IP Genlock from a central computer or a central system, cameras and other devices on the network. And although we're early in seeing it being adopted, it's going to be, at least I feel, it's going to be a really significant feature as people begin to use that, in their IP designs.
Yeah. All right, Matt Lukens, NDI Evangelist, thanks for joining Commercial Integrators today.
You're welcome. Pleasure to be here.